Foundations of Financial Literacy. My name is Chris Arski. I'm one of the designers of professional learning with the consortia. And today we are going to consider unpacking our understanding of financial literacy as part of the why behind the work that we've been doing for the career education and financial literacy, commonly referred to as CFL. We're going to start in the middle because everything connects back to this idea, financial inclusion. Not everyone is included in a financial system. Some people are what they're called unbanked. They don't use banks or any type of financial services. Many people are financially excluded because they lack the financial literacy that goes along with understanding that process. This frames the why financial literacy needs to be taught in schools. We don't teach financial literacy just to teach money skills. We teach it so that students can fully participate in society. Financial literacy transitions to the banked side, which is the top of our circle. This part explains that financial literacy helps people move from being excluded to being included. Without knowledge, people won't use the services. With knowledge, people feel confident to use them. Financial literacy programs, the circle on the right, help teach and increase readiness to join the financial system. It builds the knowledge of financial products, how to use them, and how to improve well-being. Students need more, though, than just access. They need to understand. The third circle, determinants of access to financial services, explains that access isn't just about availability. It's about whether people can actually use the system. If people don't understand the financial services, they won't use them, even if they're available. Financial literacy doesn't happen automatically. It has to be taught intentionally. Financial literacy is not just about money. It's about helping students participate fully in the world. So when we look at this next graph, the Educator's Roadmap to Financial Literacy, the intent of this infographic is simply to provide you with a bit of background as to how did we get here. So financial literacy was not added to the curriculum randomly. It was a policy response to a national problem. Canadians were making financial decisions without the knowledge to do so effectively. In the early 2000s, the Financial Consumer Agency of Canada, also known as the FCAC, was formed. It is a federal agency that protects consumers of financial products and services. It promotes financial literacy across Canada. It provides resources to help Canadians make informed financial decisions. The FCAC was created to protect and educate financial consumers. They conducted one of the most extensive surveys that initially showed many Canadians lack the basic financial knowledge, and this aligns very much with the current research. Low financial literacy or decision-making. Low financial literacy also has reduced participation in the financial system. The task force further worked at a 2010 report which identified that many Canadians lack the financial knowledge, skill, and confidence needed to make responsible financial decisions, despite facing increasing complex financial choices at very young ages. Financial literacy is therefore positioned as an essential life skill that directly impacts individuals' well-being and the national economic stability. The findings emphasize that financial literacy is uneven across the population, with significant gaps in budgeting, planning, understanding financial products, and these gaps contribute to the vulnerability, the high debt levels, and the poor financial outcomes. On the infographic, you will notice that there's a balance that starts off in the top left-hand corner. At the time of the initial survey, it showed for every dollar that was being made, there was $1.74 in debt. The report then went on to recommend that financial literacy be developed through a coordinated, lifelong learning approach, beginning in the formal education system and continuing through key life events. Schools were identified as a critical foundation because they provided equitable access to all learners, allowing students to build early knowledge, skills, and confidence. The study recommended to be effective, financial literacy education must be supported by collaboration across governments, educators, and stakeholders. It needs to be integrated into a curriculum and reinforced over time, and supported with teacher training, accessible resources, and ongoing evaluation to ensure impact and accountability. The report positions school systems as the foundation of the National Financial Literacy Strategy, emphasizing that financial education should begin early and be reinforced throughout the student's journey. It recommends that provinces and territories integrate financial literacy across the K-12 curricula so that all students develop the knowledge, skills, and confidence to make informed financial decisions. Early and continuous exposure is critical, as financial decision-making is becoming more complex and beginning at younger and younger ages. So your next infographic has really two components to it. There are a number of different slide decks that will be available for you to use. One of them is called the key components of financial literacy. And on that slide deck, you will see the 5 that you see here in the blue merged into 4. But in this particular presentation, I would like you to take the time to bear with me and go through the 5 different aspects of the financial literacy, which is a means to a destination. How do we get students to the endpoint that was just described from the study? So what does it mean for key components of financial literacy? What does that mean to us as educators? How will we prepare our students to attain future resilience? In other words, financial inclusion and financial well-being, the end goal or the destination of moving from financial literacy towards being well-being and financial status. You can read this as a roadmap. Starting in the top left-hand corner, the means are those components that students need to become well-versed in, with our end goal being future resilience and financial well-being. The middle of this particular infographic underpins the financial literacy is not the end goal, but rather it's the means to improve one's financial well-being in a personally meaningful way. So just because I understand the terminology for financial literacy does not mean that I am a financially well-positioned person. So when we look at this infographic, how will a deeper understanding of financial literacy inform your work with students? Take a moment to stop and consider that question. How will that help with your planning? How will your background knowledge of financial literacy inform how you will move forward with students? A few minutes of reflection on what this means to you before moving forward in this presentation may be well worth your while. The next few slides will provide additional reflective questions to consider when planning your coursework. Where will you teach money's value and its purpose? What courses could you infuse that information into? You may wish to consider CTS, CTF courses, financial management, entrepreneurism, but also consider the possibilities that exist within your math curriculums, the direct skill and procedure statements such as including money that exists in those curriculums now, or also consider the economics of social studies, the purchasing power, course materials for other courses. All of these could be places where you could begin to infuse the work that students need to do to see how money impacts their day-to-day routines. Where will your students be exposed to budgeting and the related handling of money in a real-world context? What outcomes in your grade's curriculum support these concepts? It's important that we recognize that budgeting is not financial literacy. It is a component of financial literacy, and it definitely does not exist in every grade's curriculum. Terminology does exist in each grade's curriculum. How does your terminology, how do the outcomes that are written in your particular grade affect the student's ability to move forward and create a budget and to actively take part in creating a budget? Our third question, how will you help students build financial confidence? What opportunities would a grade 7 to 9 student have to practice sound decision-making related to finances? Again, pondering that question and reflecting on it, how might you embed that into some of the coursework that you do? Building students' financial confidence by providing real-world tasks that require them to apply math to budgeting, spending, and saving decisions. Or perhaps consider practicing sound decision-making by comparing options, evaluating trade-offs, justifying choices, and using mathematical reasoning. Regular opportunities for reflection and discussion will help them to refine their thinking and understanding that financial decisions involve strategies and judgments. What will planning include to help students identify individual security? Opportunities for students to examine needs versus wants, budgeting, saving strategies. Those are some of the ways that you may consider approaching this particular topic. help them make decisions that support their personal financial security. Understanding the difference between passwords, understanding the importance of codes, encouraging students in real-life scenarios such as managing income, planning expenses, preparing for an unexpected cost to build awareness how choices impact stability. Or you may also wish to consider and reflect, perhaps discuss with students how they might connect financial habits to long-term well-being and their goals. All of these are impactful for individual security. Identify opportunities that you may be able to provide within a school system that will help support the development of collective well-being. This is something that schools are well positioned to do. Consider opportunities within your school that include collaborative projects, such as planning events or managing shared resources, where students have to consider the needs of the group. Students can practice decision-making that balances individual wants with collective goals. Reflection and discussion will help them to identify those choices that they've made and how their choices contribute to the well-being of the broader school community. Or perhaps consider a school-based opportunity such as a group budgeting task, a fundraising initiative, and shared decision-making activities that support the development of the collective well-being. These experiences also allow students to consider fairness, equity, and the impact of their choices on others. Through collaboration, students build an understanding of how to respond to certain decisions. These types of activities benefit the entire community. Classroom routines and school initiatives such as resource sharing, collaborative problem solving, providing opportunities to develop collective well-being within your classroom help students to move forward. Students learn to make decisions that support both the individual and the group's needs. Ongoing reflection helps students to recognize their role in contributing to the supportive and the inclusive environment within their classroom. These are all simply suggestions that we might be able to consider when looking at that journey that we're taking students through financial literacy on their way to financial inclusion. In addition, part of the prep work that you will work through with students is a guiding document that supports the work in a draft financial literacy progressions. Financial literacy progressions are combinations of knowledge, skills, and characteristics that students may demonstrate by the end of a divisional age range. You will find the link to the progressions on the next slide. You are familiar with progressions. You have numeracy progressions and literacy progressions. These are designed in a very similar fashion. So to wrap up our foundations of financial literacy, additional information can be found on the Foundation's website, as well as the progressions. So I hope this gives you some background into the why behind financial literacy. Thank you, everyone.